It hurts me to say this, especially as someone who is a fan of this guy and does want him to succeed in the NFL. But it is officially time to call Bryce Young a bust. Bryce Young obviously was an outstanding quarterback at Alabama. He played 3 seasons there. In 2020, he won a Natty. In 2021, he won the Heisman with almost 5,000 yards and 47 touchdowns with just 7 interceptions. Unbelievable season. 2022, he played a little bit less games, so he finished with 3,328 yards and 32 touchdowns with only 5 interceptions. Unbelievable quarterback, was no doubt going to be the number 1 pick, and sure enough, he was. The Carolina Panthers drafted Bryce Young as the number 1 overall pick in 2023. Bryce Young struggled in 2023. He threw for shy of 3,000 yards. He only threw for 11 touchdowns, and he threw 10 interceptions. So basically an even touchdown-interception ratio. Not too many yards at all. A 73.7 passer rating. Fortunately for Bryce, no, not really any Panthers fans or NFL fans in general really believed that what he displayed out there was on him and on him not being a good player. He was drafted to the Panthers, which was an absolutely terrible organization for a quarterback in modern Panthers era to be drafted to. No offensive line, no run game, and just no weapons whatsoever. C.J. Stroud, who was the 2nd overall pick in the draft, another quarterback, he came from Ohio State and was drafted to the Houston Texans, had a very good rookie season, probably the 2nd best quarterback rookie season of all time, with Jaden Daniels surpassing him the year later. C.J. Stroud looked phenomenal. He looked confident. He was putting up monster numbers every single game. He just looked like the future elite quarterback in the NFL. This was a little bit of a rough look for Bryce Young, who was supposed to be the better player, kind of always had been until that point. It was probably a little emotional to Bryce, too, considering these guys actually grew up together playing against each other. Were friends all the way through college, even now into the NFL. Seeing his brother much better than he did, obviously, I was probably proud of him, but it's definitely a tough situation to be in because you want to be that quarterback. You wish you could be playing as well as he could. But C.J. Stroud had better weapons. He had a better team, a better coach, better everything, and he took advantage. The Texans also had a great draft that year. Will Anderson was picked right after C.J. Stroud. So C.J. Stroud and the Texans went on to make the playoffs. They even won a playoff game before losing to the Ravens in the 2nd round. Everything was looking good for the Texans, but for the Panthers, it was the complete opposite. Nothing much really happened over the offseason. They drafted Xavier Legette, but he wasn't necessarily a high draft pick or anything, so nobody expected him to be a crazy good receiver for them. He was helpful. Definitely was helpful. After Adam Thielen got hurt, Legette was the main option there, considering they didn't really have anybody else. No offense to the Panthers. They had DJ Chark for a little bit, but you can't really get too much consistency from him. So in 2024, Bryce's sophomore season, Bryce threw for 2,400 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. He did this with 2 less games played. He played in 14 games, and he only started in 12 of them because at one point in the season, he was benched for Andy Dalton, and that was pretty early on in the season, which is not necessarily what you want to see happen to your supposedly franchise quarterback in the very beginning of his 2nd season, being benched to Andy Dalton. Obviously, that's a veteran quarterback. He knows what he's doing out there. It was a lesson for Bryce to learn, and Bryce definitely learned. Bryce came back from that, and in those first few games, he looked better than he ever had been in his NFL career. He looked poised. He was putting up great numbers, great touchdowns, no interceptions. It was something special. Everyone that was rooting for Bryce was so beyond happy. And then he finished the season not terrible at all, but not looking like he was those last few games. So like I said, 2,400 yards, 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Still a much better season than the season before. Here we are after week 4 in his 3rd season. Panthers have gotten a little bit better, but they're still a terrible team. And it sucks to say, but part of the reason the Panthers are this bad is because of Bryce Young. You can't have that excuse anymore that the Panthers are just a bad team. Bryce Young is not doing anything to help his case. I understand. The weapons are still not elite or anything above average, but they got T-Mac, who has been looking good. Bryce has been getting him the ball, which is good. I hope that connection builds further. But Bryce is just quite simply is not playing that great. Week 1, Bryce threw for 150 yards and 1 touchdown with 2 interceptions. A terrible performance. Week 2 against the Cardinals. In a close loss, Bryce Young put up 328 yards, 3 touchdowns, and just 1 interception. That's a very good game for Bryce. That should be a very good confidence builder. I hope that he can carry that into the next game. What happens the next game? At home versus the Falcons. They do win 30-0, which is great. Bryce Young went 16 for 24, only threw for 121 yards with 0 touchdowns. How do you only throw 121 yards and 0 touchdowns in a 30-0 win? I'm glad he got the win. That is the most important thing. You are the number 1 overall pick, though, and one of the best quarterbacks in college history. 121 yards, 0 touchdowns? I don't even know what to say. That's just that just can't happen. You need at least 1 touchdown. You need more yards than that. I understand the run game was working well, but still. He did have 1 rushing touchdown. So he did have a touchdown, but his passing numbers were still looking very iffy. The next week against the Patriots, Panthers fans were pretty happy about that last win, and they're playing a team who isn't bad but isn't great either. Pretty mediocre Patriots team. I think fans were expecting it to be a close one considering how last week went. The Panthers lost 42-13. Bryce Young was 18 for 30. Threw for 150 yards, 1 touchdown. I don't know. I mean, right now he's on pace for under 3,000 passing yards. His yards per game is at 188. Your first overall pick, you should have more than 200 yards per game. He is on pace for over 20 touchdowns, which would be the first time in his career. Matter of fact, 15 is his highest, so he hasn't even been close to 20 touchdowns. And he is on pace for his most interceptions also. So, it's year 3, Bryce Young. The excuses aren't there anymore. I don't care that the Panthers are bad. You do not look like a good quarterback. I think part of the issue is his offensive line with Alabama was so unbelievably good that he had all the time in the world and he was able to make these great throws, which he can make. Everyone knows he can make these great throws. He has a crazy good arm, especially for his size. But he does not have that time in Carolina. But that's the NFL. You will never have that time you had in college, especially when you played for a team like Alabama. You have to adapt to that, especially if you're on the Panthers. The second thing is, he is the same height as Kyler Murray. Once again, that can slide in college. In the NFL, these guys are bigger, these guys are stronger, and these guys are smarter. That size is a real issue. We've seen it from Kyler Murray. He started off his career great, and it's kind of been regressing ever since, defensive lines figuring him out. And Kyler was also an unbelievable college quarterback that just hasn't, I don't want to say he hasn't panned out in the NFL as he should have, because he has had a pretty good career. He's not a bust at all. I don't know, he just hasn't been able to make those throws and have that time that he did in college. So being short, obviously, is a very big issue. When you're 5'10", 5'11", it's really hard to pan out in the NFL. And it sucks because Bryce Young is so talented. And he's such a nice guy. If you've ever seen him in interviews, right? Like, Bryce is such a stand-up guy that I think most people want to see him succeed in the NFL. He's so humble. He never complains. It just sucks that I think his height holds him back, and I think his confidence. All these star quarterbacks are having great seasons. Jaden Daniels just won Offensive Rookie of the Year. He probably had the best rookie season of all time. The year before, like I said, CJ Stroud played out of his mind. Unfortunately, he had a little bit of sophomore slump kind of leading into this year also. But these young players they're getting better, and Bryce Young just doesn't seem to be making that jump to get to that next level. What I will say, if the Panthers trade Bryce Young, which I think they should, while his value is still relatively high, not as high as it would have been obviously a couple years ago or even a year and a half ago, they're still going to be able to get a lot for Bryce Young, and I think that's what they need to do. Bryce Young could very well be a great quarterback in the NFL. That is not going to happen with the Carolina Panthers. Put Bryce Young on the Detroit Lions or the Philadelphia Eagles, teams with great offensive lines and weapons. Bryce Young would do very well there. He would not do as well as Jared Goff. He would not do as well as Jalen Hurts, but he would do well. He would be at least an average quarterback in the NFL, which he has never been. So with that being said, it's officially time to rule Bryce Young as a bust for right now until he sees a new situation, and officially time for the Panthers to move on. The Bryce Young era in Carolina is officially coming to an end very soon. but it's what he needs in his career, and it's what the Panthers need. And I hope that one day he's able to find that perfect situation for him where he's playing like he did in Alabama, or even half of that. Comment down below what you guys think his numbers are going to look like for the rest of the season. They could improve. I have the Panthers improving as a team in general. Matter of fact, a part of my parlay I placed, I have them winning over 4.5 games. That's looking a little scary. They haven't taken that jump that I wanted them to, but yeah, comment down below what you think his number is going to look like, and if you think he should stay in Carolina and you think he'll be able to figure it out, or if you think he should be in a different situation, or maybe he will be able to get that opportunity that he will never have in Carolina. Let me know.